Hello, Star Wars family. I am your host, Tony Juan Kenobi, and I welcome you to May the Boys Be With You, a Star Wars show. Today, I am joined by the biggest Star Wars fan I know. The Force is strong with this one, a user of both the light and the dark, a boy who was just a Padawan full of confusion, who became a mighty Sith full of rage. None other than my co host, Brant2 D2. Brant, welcome to the show, my man. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good to be here. Glad to be here. It's a pleasure. I love myself some Star Wars, so glad to talk a little bit. We've been getting a lot of good stuff lately, so ready to jump in and talk through all those things. So everything that we've been having and seeing, especially Kenobi. So yeah.
It has been just a absolutely whirlwind of a few weeks here. For those of you who are not familiar, new to the show, this is our first inaugural episode. So applaud for that, guys. That's amazing. We are going to cover a variety of things on the show, from episode reactions to some predictions, maybe some live watches. We're going to do it all. Anything Star Wars. We are the boys. May the boys be with you, and may we talk about some Star Wars. Those of you who are here today, we are talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi today. There has been 5 episodes. We will give all of our opinions on those episodes, and ultimately, we're going to start by breaking some of those episodes down, going through them, talking about what we liked and disliked in each episode, and then we got a bunch of segments later on, so stick around for those. Brant, you ready to talk some Star Wars?
Let's do it. May the boys be with you.
Absolutely. So we're going to start with episode 1. We are obviously 5 episodes in, so we will not waste any time. Episode 1 starts at the Jedi Temple, Order 66 on Coruscant, with some little young Jedi younglings, some Jedi's being shot at, some, to be sad, Jedi's being murdered. We saw it all. It was a crazy start to the show. They just went right into the action. In my opinion, probably the fastest part of the episode. From there, we get some Tatooine. We go right to Tatooine. Tatooine action. We're getting Ben Kenobi, the former Jedi, now just mere human being. Obi-Wan Kenobi turned into Ben Kenobi, cutting meat on Tatooine. Brant, any thoughts on how it went, how this show started?
I thought it started great. I think, especially for those who maybe have not seen Revenge of the Sith in a while, don't really know the backstory of like where we're at in the timeline. We're having a really interesting time of Star Wars right now, where we're exploring the in between of the episodes, because the movies that we have, the Skywalker saga, last years, right, in the Empire and all these things. So we're getting to see those snippets of time. So I loved how it started, with the murdering of the younglings. Maybe not the murder so much, but the tone setting right away. Okay, this is where we're at. We're at this time of demise within the Jedi Order. The Jedi are gone. They're forgotten. It's a time of dishope. And so then to see this iconic Jedi, and Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ben Kenobi here, understanding like where he's at and seeing kind of him being disheartened, right? This is 10 years post him losing it all, him having the high ground, having to murder and kill his best friend, right?
His brother,
my brother, right? And going in to see him repeat the same thing over and over, disconnect himself from the Force. And we really get to see this like new idea of what Obi-Wan Kenobi is, because before this, right, we had Revenge of the Sith, and then it went right into episode 4, and we had Alec Genius with like his rendition, old Ben Kenobi, what that looked like, and we got some in Rebels, right? But this is the first where we see disheartened Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is not something we usually see. So I really enjoyed the start and then the tone coming in. I know a lot of people were very much wanting like this super hype all the way, all these things, but storytelling is not something you start in the climax, right? You got to build up to it. So I like how we got that tone and it just kind of brought us right down. So for me, like the theme of this episode, what I kind of called it was, this is Jedi hunting, because it's kind of an homage to Phantom Menace in a way. This is pod racing, but we have a lot of like Grand Inquisitor, the Inquisitors introduced within like live action canon, so that's really neat.
Absolutely. And no one can quite jump timelines like Star Wars can jump timelines. They love going from one show to another, where you're 40 years in the future, 20 years in the past. When you start the show, you really have no idea where you are unless you do the research. So that's the amazing thing about Star Wars. Yeah, they really did just lay into making sure Ben Kenobi is no longer the Jedi he once was. He is just a mere worn down man with a ton of trauma, facing deaths of brothers and just an absolute demise of his master against Darth Maul. And he's, Obi-Wan Kenobi, he's had a troubled life. It's, poor guy. You watch the episode and you're just sad. It's gotten to a point where he's packing meat, cutting meat, and sneaking that meat to eat dinner at night. That is Obi-Wan Kenobi's life.
But he never lost hope until losing Anakin. I think that's where we're at, where he's never lost that hope, and so we're gone, and he's depending on others to go through. Even when he lost Qui-Gon, he still had that mentality of what's next, where it is. And even in this point, he's asking for Qui-Gon's help, and he hears nothing. He's like, what do I do, Master? Where we're at. We know something happens with Qui-Gon, which we'll talk about, maybe some theories and stuff a little later of what we might, but we know between the end of Revenge of the Sith, when Yoda's like, you need to train with your old master, to episode 4, we know some training happened, but at this point we know it hasn't. So that's really neat that we're also in this like very deep hole, no hope, Jedi lost Kenobi, who's like the Jedi. A lot of people say he's like the epitome of what a Jedi meant during the Jedi Order, like when the Jedi was at its height, at its prime. Many would say that like Kenobi was. So agreed. Like having to depend, and we see him with Luke and having this going from the far back. We see his cave, all those things, and just rinse and repeat. So 100%.
Absolutely. Obviously we had a great intro to Riva, and then as well as Rupert Friend, who is playing the Grand Inquisitor, who is a great character in Rebels for those who have watched the animated series. Rupert Friend has a great opening monologue to his character, talking about hunting Jedi and how they cannot resist. There's several scenes throughout this episode of Obi-Wan kind of hiding, encounters with Owen, who seems like he wants nothing to do with them, as well as a Leia chase scene on Alderaan. That one, may have went on for a little bit, but hey, I know people loved it because Leia, is fantastic. She plays her role great. So overall, this episode was more of a builder, not quite as exciting as some of the other ones, but yet a necessity for storytelling, as you had said. So overall, main takeaway from the first episode, what you liked best and what you disliked, because with everything liking, it is not perfect. You have to dislike some parts of Star Wars too.
Yeah, I think the thing I most like about it is we get to see this disheveled non-Jedi Obi-Wan, right? Like he is really there to look after Luke, but is he really? Like, is he actually he's just going through the motions? So really get to see that another fellow Jedi, who most likely was a youngling at the temple, came and asked for help. Was like, Master Kenobi, I know you're here. Like, what are you doing? I need your help. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Go bury your lightsaber in the sand. And then the next day, this Jedi's dead. That one that asked for help. So for me, the thing I really enjoyed about it was that like this iconic character being brought down to a humanistic level of despair, and allowing us to see growth within a 6-episode span. I would say something that I didn't like was I wish we could have had a little more interactions with like Luke, or seeing where Luke was at. We just had a really small snippet, which is okay. I'm sure we'll get some more later, but that small snippet was nice with the homage to like Anakin when he was in episode 1. But I would say that, but also as someone who is a big fan of Grand Inquisitor, I wish his head was just a little longer. Just because that's just so sinister in Rebels. And so when I first saw him, he looked a little goofy. So that's another kind of thing where I was like, I don't. The words and the writing was great, but maybe a little more up, if that makes sense. What
Absolutely.
about you?
Yeah, I the thing I liked about it was I went into the show with expectations of action. With we just from seeing Revenge of the Sith to this, you're like, oh well, Obi-Wan's an absolute savage from what he did at the end of Revenge of the Sith to coming into this. I'm like, this show is going to be just action packed, crazy. Especially after watching The Mandalorian for 2 seasons, you're like, all right, Star Wars loves their action now. They're off on a different foot. And then how slow it was, I actually like how they changed it up. They slowed us down and said, this is not going to be just action throughout. We're building, we're storytelling. It might piss some of you off, which it does, but we are going to storytell. Love that. Thing I did not like, I felt like they wasted a lot of time with the chase scenes. They didn't, I know Leia's a force wielder. We all know that, but she is not going to run away from grown adults at the age of 10 years old. Not going to happen. Frustrated me a little bit. However, necessity, because, Leia's a scrappy one. We know that. So, yeah, episode 1 overall, good episode, good builder. On to episode 2. The great Bail Organa showing up on Tatooine, trying to talk Obi-Wan into saving his adopted daughter, obviously the daughter of none other than Anakin Skywalker. Yeah, Bail shows up, pretty much begs Obi-Wan to go after Leia. He ends up falling into it, even though it's very reluctantly. He does go after her. He goes up and digs out some lightsabers. It's kind of a weird because you're like, how is this guy going to go save her with how pathetic he has been over the last 10 years, going through the motions, like you said, very disconnected from the Force. Obviously, we get some good Reva and Grand Inquisitor action once they get to the chase. Once they get to Dayu, I believe the city was called. It was a city planet. And we get some good Leia, Obi-Wan chase scenes, Obi-Wan rescuing her, meeting a Jedi named Haja along the way, who is not really a Jedi, but claims to be a Jedi, who Obi-Wan pretty much just
Good old
absolutely,
magnets.
yeah, breaks down real quick by just whipping the magnets out of his pocket and pulling out a blaster. And this episode was definitely more action-packed. I have my opinions. I will let you go first. What you liked, what you disliked.
Yeah. So what I liked was the idea of like Leia did not trust or did not really recognize what a Jedi was. And like this random man to show up. It wasn't this like, oh, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're our only hope, right? Like that we saw in episode 4. It was this like building of trust, like who are you? What do you mean my dad sent you? This is weird, especially after we just got captured. And so then the jumping across the building scene was awesome. I thought that was an awesome chase with Reva going after. You thought like, oh, they're gonna get that scrap, and then when Leia falls, using the Force real quick at the end. So that's like a introduction of Obi-Wan reconnecting himself to the Force. Like that's where he's reconnecting himself, rekindling that relationship that he kind of shut off for those 10 years. And so I thought that was a really neat pivotal moment of he finally broke himself free of that like this hope with Leia where that is. For me, what I didn't like about this episode, I thought it was just really quick with a lot of different things that were happening, a lot of buildup with back and forth dialogue of Haja, like, oh, we gotta go find the secret Jedi. Like it was very, you knew it was going to be a real Jedi, all these things, and you could just kind of figure it out. Also, I did like the homage to the kind of Clone War Easter egg that was in there, but also it felt rushed, if that makes sense. Like the last
I believe
one,
that was Tamara Morrison, the actor who plays
yes,
Boba
it was. So if like the first one felt drawn out, this one felt a little rushed. So that would be my critiques. I did really like we got to see the arguments between the Inquisitors and the idea of power. What I nicknamed this episode was like crime adventure. It felt a lot more like behind the scenes crime adventure, like more Rebels or Resistance-esque than like Jedi-esque, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, 100% agree. There was two things about this episode. They were actually both towards the end. One I liked, one I disliked. The thing I liked about this episode, the end scene, Vader. It wasn't the end scene; it was the last scene of the show. Vader coming alive in the back tank after Obi-Wan pretty much says, pretty much like him coming to the realization that Anakin's alive. It's Darth Vader, and you just hear him breathing in his bacta tank, and that is just the absolute perfect introduction to Darth Vader. Because man, they couldn't hit that any better. That's some great film writing right there. I mean, that's amazing. As far as something I disliked, I absolutely cringed when Reva had to tell Obi-Wan that Anakin is alive, because at that point, which it's my opinion is different now, but at that point, I'm like, how does she know? Why does she know? How is Obi-Wan going to find out that from some rando that we don't know anything about, that her brother, that his brother Anakin Skywalker, who he thought he killed, is alive? So that was a little weird at that time. Obviously, it makes sense later as you go on in time, but yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy that that is how that played out. Overall, though, I thought it was a good episode. It was two episodes that got released at once, so I was a little bit like kind of taken back. I'm like, all right, where is this going? So he has Leia and they got away. So this show over? Like, where are we going with the story? I was kind of confused. Obviously, you knew there would be some conflict next episode, but I was a little confused because there wasn't much storyline at that point. Obviously, that jumps into a third episode, which became wild. Quick recap: they start on a desert planet, a mining desert planet named Mapuzo, which I'm pretty sure is the state of Nevada in the United States. 99% sure, but hey, nonetheless, it is Mapuzo. And Obi-Wan and Leia are walking around trying to find this meeting spot that Haja told him to go to because he helped them get away from Reva and the Grand Inquisitor. And he ends up there. They hop on a little tractor, run some stormtroopers. We get some very sentimental moments with between Obi-Wan and Leia talking about she just reminds me of her mother. And that doesn't shed tears. I don't know what does. It is and
the little hand, like the placing of the hand, like heart melting.
And then Leia asks Obi-Wan, "Are you my real father?" And he says, "I wish I was," hinting, did Obi-Wan ever have a crush on Padme? You don't know, but no, I'm just kidding.
No, he was Satine all the way.
Yeah, Satine, that's right. But it does show that Obi-Wan and Leia have some great chemistry. Star Wars loves having a master taking care of a little kid at all times, whether it's Mandalorian or A New Hope or an Obi-Wan show or
whatever it is.
There's always
Leia's the new Grogu, right?
Yeah, there's always an older, wiser person in charge of a little being. That's just Star Wars to a T. So obviously the episode goes on. We get Vader on Mapuzo, absolutely badass Vader, crushing necks, throwing people around, and pretty much knowing he can draw Obi-Wan out. So let's hear your opinions, Brant.
Yeah, this was that episode that I was just like, oh yes. Because of seeing Vader just walk through and not like draw his lightsaber when he just used the Force, murdering people left and right and not even like giving them the time of day, like pure anger and hatred and desire to like find his old master and prove himself in a way that he is this epitome, like he chose the right path. I feel like that's kind of what's struggling is he chose the right path. Like that's what internal struggle is going on. And so at this point, I still think that there's conflict between Anakin and Vader. I still think there's an underlying tone, this desire of there, and being able to see that in this episode with the fire scene and him not going all out when he sees that Obi-Wan's this weak, disheveled man. He doesn't want to like kill him or do anything with him. He lets him go. He purposefully lets him go, in my opinion, because he wants to prove himself. And he's like, I can't prove myself. This is easy. Like, why would I do this? And so I thought that was really neat.
And people are like, Vader's scared of the fire. It's like, he's not scared of the fire. He let him go.
No, he let him go. He intentionally did it. Yeah, he could have walked through and just murdered them all, but no, he wanted to win and prove his power. And I thought that was my favorite scene, was it showed like dark side wisdom in a way of like, I don't want to do it because it wouldn't prove anything. So it's like you need to show your power in a wise way. So it's like a weird mix of like Jedi mentality, but also like dark side Sith mentality. So I thought that was really neat. For me, there's just something I didn't like about this. A lot of walking around, a lot of sand, a lot of just weird like stormtrooper relation. I didn't care for the weird taxi alien. I thought it was just a little. I'm not sure, was he voiced by Seth Rogen? It sounded like it.
No, not there's theories, but it was not Seth.
Okay, it sounded like it, but I don't know. I didn't really. It was okay. That was, I guess, whatever. But I did enjoy the introduction of Tala and the path. I think that's something that's going to be a larger theme throughout further Star Wars things. So I would say like the idea of this path to get folks out, something we're going to see more in Star Wars canon.
For sure. And going off of it, there was something I really enjoyed. It was a one-liner. It was a kind of an interaction between Vader and Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan shouts, "Who have you become?" And Vader just, "Oh, I am who you made me."
Yeah.
That was just, it was amazing. It was just incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, I
themed this episode Rekindling of the Force, just because it was like this like re-edition for Obi-Wan. He feels Vader coming, right? So it's like that connection, almost similar to like Rey and Ben's connection. It's like we're seeing that, like when people were really like, "What? We never seen that before." It's almost like showing that can exist in a different setting too.
Absolutely. And that throughout that whole fight, you see it, not really a fight, it was more of a beatdown. But throughout that whole beatdown, you see Vader kind of like just toying with toying with Kenobi. Kenobi, I personally think, had a little sensing, and like there's still a little bit of Anakin in there, because at this point I still think he's like 90% Vader, 10% Anakin, because there's still a little Anakin in there. And that's something I'll jump off on later. Something I disliked, I can't understand how he got away even from a droid. Like if it's like, yep, I get he let him get away a little bit, but it's like, wouldn't they just go around and get him? Like, I don't know. They just cut the next episode, just starts cutting to him on a plane. I'm like, all right, so they somehow got out of there super fast, away from the mighty Empire, and got on a ship to Jabim just out of nowhere, like when he was pretty much surrounded and done for. So that was a little weird to me. That droid is absolutely very strong, but super cool episode. There was some flaws for sure. There was some things that I was just, whether it was film, just like the way it was produced, and there was some flaw. Like the music seemed a little bit off at times, but overall there were some great interactions, and obviously seeing the sabers light up and them go at it for the first time was amazing. So jumping off to episode 4, kind of a little bit of a twist here. You weren't really sure what to expect after that previous episode. You figured maybe we're still on Mapuzo and they're still kind of just getting away from each other, or like they're trying to run away. Instead, like I said, we start on the ship. To like from Obi-Wan's point of view, where he's kind of dazed, confused, wakes up saying, "Where am I?" Ends up in a bacta tank. Super cool, because Star Wars loves their bactas at this point. And in this episode, we get to see Leia have to get rescued again, because Leia was taken by Reva during that other episode. And we see Reva trying to pretty much drill all this information out of a 10-year-old about all these tunnels throughout the universe that I'm sure a 10-year-old knows plenty about. Like, that confused me. I'm like, why is Reva trying to get all this information from a 10-year-old who has no idea what's going on, besides that she's very stubborn? Lola, her little handy flying droid is obviously a big stepping off point of that one.
Big product placement. We're going to see a lot of that going to be sold in the future.
For sure. And Obi-Wan goes and rescues Leia on the Mustafar system. It's not, I don't believe it's actually in Mustafar, but it looks like an oceanic planet in the Mustafar system, which is where Fortress Inquisitor is. A very cool place. What I would say a callback to Jedi Fallen Order, I believe, where Cal Kestis goes in, rescues, or goes on a mission and breaks into. So that was crazy to see. We see some Jedi's. It's not a memorial, obviously, because it's a Sith thing, but it's a it seems like a Jedi burial place where they're just pretty. I don't know if they're dead or if they're just frozen in time. I don't really know, but they're there, and Obi-Wan sees them and he seems very disturbed, and then obviously gets away and ends with Vader being pissed, even though Vader left him go last episode, and then let's get to Obi-Wan, Leia, all them running away with a tracker on them that Reva placed in Lola, her droid. Brant, reactions?
I enjoyed this episode. I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was fun. It was really like trying to get the plans, to trying to escape or bring someone out. Very much like this idea of going into the belly of the beast, similar to episode 4. I'll talk a little more about like the mirroring that I noticed later, but similar to that of swimming underneath, going underneath the radar. One thing I was like, why didn't you just take a stormtrooper outfit? It was right there. Like, I don't know why, because that would have been so much easier to walk around. So that was when I was like, that's stupid. Like, why didn't you do that? But anyways, I really enjoyed the Force holding of the breaking of the glass scene and then just flooding it. I think if you think about the power, like a lot of people talk about episode 5 or part 5, and we'll talk about that scene in a bit. But if the amount of pressure that was probably on that window from the water shows like the power and patience Obi-Wan is starting to have, and like bringing that force. And I think that's why Vader's pissed at the end that they escaped, it was on Obi-Wan's terms, coming to his house and taking like something that belonged to him and showing like he's getting that force back and becoming the master again. And so I really enjoyed this story of this escape mission. It was a short episode, but the shortness of the episode just packed everything in. Like I was really looking at the edge of my seat, wanting to kind of see what was next. When we thought that Tala had been caught, she was like, the path, this is where it is, all these things. So she was like a back-to-back double cross, like triple cross. And then we think it's all over. We see the rebels, right? They're not rebels at the time, but then they come in, they save the day. We actually had like a death, and that's something that doesn't always happen, but like a death happened where we lost someone. Wade, right? Poor, like he died. We lost this individual, and like this is like the birth of the rebellion, right? We're seeing this like in action thing, and Leia's right there with it. And so it allows us to see like where she's like this triple idea of what Leia is for the future is really neat. So I really liked this episode. I felt the stakes. It was super interesting with like Reva just torturing this child, or not really torturing, but like poor Leia, right? You get Reva now, and then however many years later you get Vader also and like going after you. Where's the rebel base, right? Where are the plans? Like, so I really enjoyed this episode. And I would say the thing that I just didn't like was I think I mentioned it earlier, but some of the things were like, it would have been a perfect callback, like him putting on a stormtrooper outfit real quick, but I guess timing maybe. I thought that was something like, why would you just crawl around when there's a bunch of droids when you could just throw on an outfit, walk around? That was my one thing I didn't like about this episode. I was like, that was weird, but I really enjoyed how it felt very Naboo-y as well, like swimming down, rescuing. But yeah, I enjoyed this episode. I called this one like inside the enemy, so like behind enemy lines in a way. So yeah, what about you?
Yeah, definitely Naboo vibes. This episode was one that went by pretty fast when I first turned it on, and like I always check the time right away to see how long it is, and only saw it was 35 minutes. I was super let down. That was my disappointment part of this episode, because I wanted a longer episode. Give me more Star Wars. I'm never gonna get mad about more Star Wars. Make every episode an hour and a half for all I care. No, that's ridiculous. It's a TV show, but hey, yeah, that was a short episode. However, there were some great parts of it. Obviously, Obi-Wan holding that water out, like you said. I loved when the when the stormtroopers were like, "What was that?" And then he just did that like noise thing down the hall. That was super cool. Like you said, showing him getting his powers back. When the room went dark, when Leia was in there with the two stormtroopers and the saber just lit up, that was sick.
That was awesome.
The thing I disliked, how far Obi-Wan and Leia got walking together in a trench coat type thing. Like, come on, someone would notice that. What are we doing? I know it's silly. I know it's Disney, so that's probably why. But like, what was that? Towards the end, the other thing I disliked was Vader. When he pretty much said to Reva, like, you let them go, and he was like, force choking her, and then she was like, I did it on purpose. I put a tracker on him. Then he was like, oh, I underestimated you. I'm like, that's not Vader. Vader would cut your arm off and then be like, be better next time. But it makes sense if you watch the next episode. But at the time, I was like, what the heck just happened? But it makes sense. It was a good episode. It was, fast paced, like you said. I do like the rescue mission. It was a good callback to Fallen Order.
Yeah, and then with that one last thing, like Fallen Order, this is the first time like a real connection to like a video game in a way. So we could talk about that, like I believe a few past episodes or future episodes, and maybe we'll do playthroughs of that. But it's interesting because we're expanding Star Wars outside of not just the shows and the movies. It's also like video games and Cal. So I'll be interested to see what they do with that. And Second Sister and her story, because it's a beautiful.
For sure.
It's not beautiful. It's a bad one, but it's a really neat storytelling.
Great storytelling for sure. I'm currently working on it and learning it. So those Calcastus fans out there, I envy you. You guys seem to really want him in the show. That would be cool. However, the last thing about the episode, man, I wanted some Quinlan Boss. I really did. I wanted some Quinlan Boss. It didn't happen. I'm sure they'll save it for a later time, and we'll all be pumped because they didn't just mention him for no reason. They wouldn't just be like, "Oh, Quinlan Boss." Like, they mentioned him for a reason. He will show up, whether it's in Tale of a Jedi or something along the line down the road. We are definitely getting some Quinlan Voss.
We did get Soonby though.
Yes, we did
in the tomb.
Mm-hmm. For sure. But yeah, besides that, overall, episode ends with, I believe it was Obi-Wan and Leia holding hands, pretty much like kind of worried, but also like just kind of getting away, being like, all right, we're gonna figure this out. And then cut to episode 5. In my opinion, the best episode of live action TV Star Wars yet. So that's including all Mandalorian, Boba Fett, and now Obi-Wan show, because I'm not including any of Clone Wars Rebels in there because that's all animated, or the movies because that's a movie. I'm talking live action TV series. Favorite episode of any of them yet, because there's been some good ones. So this episode, we are at a big base of an early Rebel Alliance that is not officially a Rebel Alliance yet, but more of a, just an early, just rebel against the Empire. We're going to work together. We're going to help Jedis because we believe they're the good people. Haja, our boy, is back, just sitting there with his goofy smile as they take the that plane right in, it's Leia's. The main theme that stood out to me in this one is the flashbacks. The episode started right away with
Coruscant.
Anakin on Coruscant with Obi-Wan on Coruscant. This is why the cast hated Christensen, people. This is why. Not just that little flashback scene of Mapuzo of him seeing him, but because they have a battle. They have a battle where Obi-Wan stops using his lightsaber. As Obi-Wan stops using his lightsaber in the flashback, you get Obi-Wan going out and facing Reva without a lightsaber. It's almost like it was just, it was poetry in motion. The way it was used, it was absolute psychological dominance by Obi-Wan. But I personally thought they're communicating to the Force. Vader and Obi-Wan were. Obi-Wan's obviously trying to hold them off as Leia's trying to fix the roof so they can get out of there. Leia is kind of like her dad, Anakin, as a young mech tech, just trying to fix the sailing and fix Leia, just technology stuff, which we obviously know Anakin was great at. She opens the roof, starting to get away, and Vader pulls the ship back down, rips it apart. Absolutely amazing. Then once that happens, the other part of the ship gets away. Reva then tries attacking Vader from behind because her and Obi-Wan talked about, this whole thing where we find out more about Reva's story, how she was abandoned. She felt abandoned by Obi-Wan and by Vader, because Vader did stab her, it seems like. And then Vader absolutely just dominates her, just toys with her, stabs right through the chest, and the Grand Inquisitor, Rupert Friend, rolls out and kind of just stomps on her grave. But does not look like she dies, because she then crawls towards the comm from Bail Organa, basically talking about the kids, and Reva finds out about the kids. Obi-Wan gets away, to us finding out that Darth Vader and a Star Cruiser is right on their tail. And that is where we leave off. Instant reaction, Brant. What are your opinions? Let's hear it all. Amazing episode.
Awesome episode. I thought it was just really cool. The idea of like, I themed this one power versus wisdom. So the idea, like the quote that stood out for me was Obi-Wan telling Anakin, "Your need for victory, Anakin, it blinds you." And so it's such a neat moment to like see also Vader really feeling that, and he's not blind. I think Vader knows what he's doing and why he's doing it. So he's bringing in that wisdom of like understanding his master's not like lessons. And it shows like we have that back and forth. We see Obi-Wan beat him in the beginning. He still wins, but we see that Vader's becoming more wise and recognizes like the need for wisdom and power. So it's like we're getting Vader. And I'm really excited. I'm hopeful we get more of him in future things. We just see him as this iconic villain in future things, especially with Hayden Christensen and James Earl Jones coming back and like voicing and acting out these scenes.
Do you think it was them communicating through the Force? My question for you is like that whole flashback stuff.
Yes, I think. Oh, the flashback.
Do you think that was them both seeing that and kind of like talking to the Force, or that was just like there for the fans?
Oh, I could see them going through the Force. Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's what I do. Yeah. I think I loved this episode. I don't know if it was my favorite live action episode though. I think there were some moments of like Mandalorian that it just absolutely loved. But this was definitely a really iconic, a great episode. Something I just didn't like was like Reva's alive. Like, are you telling me that Qui-Gon Jinn, a Jedi Master, gets stabbed in the gut with a lightsaber and dies? But then Reva, a youngling who hasn't mastered, gets stabbed in the gut twice. Once as a youngling, and then when she's an Inquisitor and doesn't die both times. That's for me. That like I know I get that Qui-Gon got stabbed.
It's the dark side, man. It's the dark side.
Fell down, but some would say that Qui-Gon was dabbling. Qui-Gon was dabbling a little. He wasn't a true all the way Jedi. Some people would say that.
But did he accept the Qui-Gon kind of just like accept the fate though? Like it was like this is how the story has to go, and he knew that because
maybe
it seemed like he's kind of he was a big prophecy guy. Like, hey, he's the chosen one. You must train the boy. He's the chosen one.
That's when he probably had visions. Told him like this was the path. That's true. Maybe
it's almost like Doctor Strange. Like there's only one way.
Yeah, there's only one. That's how he is. Like he actually went like where Ezra went right in the future. So he actually did that whole time travel stuff too, where he saw moments of time. Maybe that'd be awesome. Honestly, Qui-Gon show, I'd love it. But loved this episode. I thought it was just another showing of like Vader will only fight you if he wants to or if you're worthy. And in this whole scene, he didn't even pull out his lightsaber. Like this whole episode, he never used his lightsaber. He took Reva's. He only used the Force to pull the ship down. And the only time he's drawn his lightsaber this entire season, this entire series, was when he faced off against Obi-Wan. And I thought that was super cool to the character. Like,
yeah,
he is.
Sure.
So yeah, I love this episode. It was my number one of my episodes, but great. I'm excited for a couple days.
Yeah, and shout out to the writers for the little Ahsoka callback with the as Vader was holding the sabers kind of cut in half. He
That
held it. He held it exactly like Ahsoka held the two
Ahsoka
sabers.
and how he killed Count Dooku as Anakin when she was on and then chopped off, but he chose to stab her and not chop off her head.
Yes, for sure. And so this episode was amazing. The parts that really stood out to me was just like Obi-Wan saying like pretty much to Vader, to Anakin in the flashback that we've never seen before, like a Padawan, you still are.
Yeah.
And how offended Anakin was by that. He was pissed. And that's why I thought they were kind of communicating through the Force, because I feel like Obi-Wan was like, a Padawan, you still are. I'm still the master here, even though you're way stronger than me. I'm going to psychologically dominate you, which is what Obi-Wan has always done. He's always the more, Anakin has better war tactics, but Obi-Wan was always the more patient, trust the process kind of Jedi.
Well, he said it. He's like, there's different ways to win.
There's different ways to win. He said, you're going to go fight him without your saber. Obi-Wan's like, there's different ways to win. Walks out there very calm, goes out there, looks like he's beat up, talks Reva out of it, dominates Vader planning wise. And Vader, Vader kind of went along with the ride, but the flashback was just so amazing. That was just incredible, seeing Anakin looking out over Coruscant.
Yeah.
Just kind of at the place where Padme lived. It was insane. That was super cool. Something I disliked was oh boy, I really didn't dislike anything part of this episode. That's the hard part for me. It's like I loved the whole thing. I guess it would be Reva. The way it went down with Reva. I even liked that. I really do. I struggled to find something negative to take out of this episode. Overall, it was amazing to see the flashbacks. The flashbacks and the fighting between Reva and Vader was super cool. Vader could have destroyed her in one hit, but he was toying around with her.
The Force
sets the stage,
stopping the lightsaber behind his back. That was really cool.
Yeah.
The Grand Inquisitor in this episode felt so much more like Rebels Grand Inquisitor.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like his eyes, the swagger. Yeah. You saw his teeth. You're like, oh. I felt like, yes, here we go.
That's GI. Yep. So that was super cool. And the other thing, I loved to see how see Obi-Wan kind of fighting Anakin without his saber and just like kind of bouncing around with him and like dodging and stuff and like then just grabbing it out of the air against him, because like Anakin's stronger but Obi-Wan's smarter. And then it was so cool to see Vader kind of fight Reva without the saber. Reva was going at him and he was kind of just using the Force to fight her. So it's kind of like we got a view of both of them doing that, which is super cool.
Oh yeah.
They set the stage in the episode for what could be just an all-time Star Wars episode coming up here, episode 6. That is going to lead us. Well, first let's rank. Let's go ahead and rank the episodes so far. We've had 5 episodes. We're going to go 5 to 1. So each individual episode, we're going to rank them worst to best. So starting with the worst rank, what was your least favorite episode so far?
Episode 2, Crime Adventure is what I called it.
And why is that?
I don't know. It was just weirdly paced. It felt very... I just knew what was going to happen. Understood what it was. It felt very underworldy, which in my head, I just don't associate Kenobi with that. So maybe that's just my own like bias with the character. I will say I did forget that the end scene was Vader waking up. So that might change my... Nah, it won't. But I think that one scene was just so good. So, But other than that, episode 2 would be my least.
Okay. So for me, my least favorite was my least favorite so far was episode 4. Just the quick episode. It was the short length. It was a couple confusing things for me. It was still a good episode, but it was a little odd to me. That was my least favorite so far. So on to 4 for you.
Yeah, my 4th was episode 1. Just setting it up, pacing of it a little long. I think the chase scenes of it, there was some good storytelling, but also some things that you could adjust with time and maybe use that time later for like episode 4 maybe. But mine would be that one episode, the first episode.
Okay, for me, I also had the first episode. The first episode, just a little slow, a little slow building. It was a building episode though, so it doesn't have to be my favorite, but yet a necessity. So number 4 for me was episode 1. For me, episode 3. Sorry, the number 3 episode that I thought was like kind of in the middle so far would be episode 2. Kind of like you said, it was a little all over the place in my opinion, but it would be episode 2 for me, just for the sheer fact it was all over the place.
And mine was episode 4 would be my third, just because the quick pacing of it, I enjoyed the shorter episode. I thought it was a good kind of break of things, but also the pacing of it made it feel like there was, like we're right there with them, like they used the time to the writing advantage. And I thought that was really neat. Also, just the like the lightsaber glow, and then the seeing of the force power. I just really enjoyed kind of that idea. And it's almost their introduction of like the rebels and like bringing us to the second half of the series.
Absolutely. So, there's nothing wrong with any of the episodes. It's just one has to be last and one has to be first. So, what was your second best episode so far in the Obi-Wan series?
Episode 3 was the second. Just thought it was really, really good. We got Vader, like seeing in his Force glory, and then that awesome fire scene. For that, I just enjoyed the battle and enjoyed the journey to get there. So yeah, episode 3 would have to be my second.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Episode 3 is my second as well. Just, Vader dash a little bit left of Anakin, in my opinion, meeting Obi-Wan for the first time in a long time. Just absolutely incredible, which means both of our favorite episodes so far of the show of the Obi-Wan show has been episode 5, the most recent, and obviously because it was the best episode. So that is your rankings of that is our rankings of 5 to 1 in order so far of what episodes we like best, what episodes we liked worst. I would love to hear your opinions. Leave a comment down below, kind of just figuring out what you liked best. So going next, so that was the rankings. I am going to talk about Easter eggs and callbacks that we've noticed throughout the show. So just a couple that stood out to you. Brant, what was your first like hidden Easter egg dash like a callback that you saw so far in the show that you just absolutely loved?
It was that little ship, the little toy ship that he bought, that Ben bought from the Jawa. I thought that was such a small thing. I was like, I know that from somewhere, but it was the ship that then Luke played with in episode 4, A New Hope. He played with it in Ben's place. And so I thought that was just so cool. It was the old clone freighter toy, clone ship toy. I thought that was just a neat small addition. Also, like seeing personality of Jawa was hilarious. So that was the first one that really stood out to me. And that was that toy.
Absolutely. It was a great callback. My first one, and shout out to my wife for this one. Nevada had mentioned it to me. Lola is obviously Leia's little droid. Leia is originally acted by Carrie Fisher, and Carrie Fisher as a child had a bird named Lola.
Oh, that's awesome! I didn't know that.
That's just some Star Wars deep thinking right there. Like that's some deep research. That's some like, wow, we are really getting down to the nitty gritty here. So that was pretty incredible.
Well, about Ewan McGregor's daughter, right?
Yeah, she showed up at the show.
Yeah,
she was on the spice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which I thought that was a cool callback too.
Yeah. My second Easter egg, and then I'll jump back to you. We'll do a little snake draft here, kind of thing. Mine would be just Quinlan Boss showing up, getting a call out, and that's just mainly because we saw Quinlan Boss very, very briefly in live action in The Phantom Menace, kind of just sitting in the background with a big yellow stripe across his face. And then we see a great episode - 2 episodes of Quinlan Voss in the animated series Clone Wars, where he's an absolute. I mean, he's a kind of a wild card. Kenobi's conflicted by him, but also needs him, and that's a super cool mission. Mm-hmm. I believe Quinlan has some similar powers to what Cal Kestis has, where they can kind of read where people are going based on what they touch. If I'm correct by that, and then yeah, but just hearing Quinlan Boss is alive and knowing that's setting up something for later, I think it's an Easter egg for a later show.
Yeah, mine was the war veteran clone. Not just because of just like seeing where they're at and how the clones are kind of disgruntled, or not disgruntled, but like thrown aside. It sets up the actor for like future projects using clones. For me, it showed like he's okay still playing clones. So like getting Captain Rex back, getting Commander Cody back, getting the Bad Batch live action maybe, right? So like all those things, it shows like that actor's like not just Boba Fett. He wants to maybe even do the clones and what they do. And I really enjoyed what that could mean for like the clones in the future of Star Wars, especially Captain Rex. He's an awesome character, and with the Ahsoka show coming up, I'm hoping that we get some Captain Rex.
Absolutely, that would be amazing. Some live action Captain Rex would be cool.
And I guess my other snake draft thing would be the bowcaster being used by Roken in the most recent episode. So good to call back to Chewbacca's favorite weapon. I thought was really cool.
That's awesome. Didn't even notice that one. That's super cool.
Yeah.
So my last callback, which isn't really a callback, but more of a theory.
Okay.
It is a Rebels for all my Rebels people out there. Kanan Jarrus. So we didn't see or hear of Kanan at all in the show. However, for those of you who have seen Rebels and have seen at least saw the first episode of Bad Batch, Caleb Dune is actually Kanan Jarrus' name as a Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
And then he becomes Kanan Jarrus later. My theory is that when Tala when her and Obi-Wan were in the tunnel talking about pretty much how like Jedis change their identities there and then go and like pretty much smuggle kids and then like change their identities so they can't be found. My theory is Kanan Jarrus early on in the rebellion around this time has gone through there and made his transformation from Kanan Jarrus kind of Caleb Dune hiding his identity, changing his identity to becoming Kanan Jarrus, which is just super cool. We love Rebels. We love Kanan. We obviously didn't know too much about him as a young Jedi because we didn't see him in any of the live action stuff. And then all of a sudden you see this and you're like, wait a second.
Yeah.
This is how Kanan was disguised. He was obviously Caleb Dune and he became Kanan Jarrus. So that is amazing because obviously we know Kanan became a very great rebel and a Jedi Knight that we, just assumed to be a Jedi. So yeah, that was absolutely incredible Easter eggs we've had. Any more, Brent? I'm out. So
there were a few more I noticed I thought was really neat. So one was in the tomb, soon be a very small, like older Jedi. We got called back from like another animated series. So really having intentionality with Dave Filoni of like connecting all the things within animated live action. The swimming using the same thing like Naboo, that was neat. Also, something maybe people are speculating like what maybe a theory of what will happen in the future. Also thinking of like the Solo show movie. The spice trade was really prevalent or introduced in here. And so us wondering where Maul is, right? Because Maul's still alive during this time where he's currently part of the Crimson Triad, like what that looks like. So really there could be some more interaction with Maul and the spice trade. And so I thought that was really neat, kind of bringing it back on that. So those were a few other that I saw. But then my last kind of idea was just I love the callbacks and the mirroring of episode 1 is very much like part 1 of the show, where it's like Phantom Menace, all that stuff. Like each episode, I could go in length of themes I noticed for every single episode and how it connects to the original episodes in parts. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to. That could be another time when we have the whole kind of culmination. But every single one connects so mirroring to like the original George Lucas creation. And so people might say like, well, what about like 7, 8, 9? Those weren't George Lucas's. This is an homage and a mirror to George Lucas's original story and his characters. And there was that mirror there. So that's a little kind of an Easter egg, but just something I really appreciated by the producing of this show.
Absolutely. That was a great Easter egg. Right? I mean, that's not an Easter egg. It's just a theme. And it's 100% true. Every single episode lines up and it's amazing. They did a good job with that. And I don't think it was really realized until a couple episodes in.
Yeah.
We're like, whoa, they're actually kind of doing this because there was a lot of criticism early on in the show. And then the last few episodes are kind of surfaced and people are starting to love it just as I am. So yeah, that was amazing, and that leads us in to final episode, theory dash predictions. So I will let you set the table, Brent.
Yeah.
Sip from the Death Star.
So from Death Star, good old That's Who I Am. For me, I think we're gonna end with Leia getting returned to Alderaan. She'll be back to Princess Leia. She'll understand what she needs to do and why she needs to do it. Because I think at the beginning, her character development was like, "Well, I don't want to do this. Why should I act this way or be this way?" And I think she going out into the world and seeing it all really shows what wisdom does. And the idea of like her also starting to be a Padawan in her own right, with her hair kind of going down, that homage. So I think she goes to back being a princess, but understands what her path is. So I think that's something's going to happen. Something I'm not sure. I'm wanting. So thinking about like episode 6 and then part 6, someone is going to be appeared bad and then turned good to save someone who is good. So I feel like Reva is going to appear bad, go try to kill Luke. Vader, something's going to happen with like maybe Vader and Obi-Wan, or maybe Vader and Luke. I don't know. But then Reva's going to turn back to be good, like Vader does in episode 6. It's almost like how Vader turns back to Anakin. Reva turns back into her Padawan self and maybe is like a Jedi in that way, in her own right. So I think that's something neat that I'm wondering. Or
don't do it, Deborah Chow. Don't do it.
Or Vader is gonna like maybe still some Anakin left, or it's gonna be fully dead. Anakin's fully gone for something. So those are some things. I think we're gonna get a little more on the path. I also think we're gonna end with Obi-Wan going off and training with Yoda or training with Qui-Gon.
Okay, that would be pretty cool. I have definitely put a lot of thinking into this. Well, first off, comment on yours. I really hope they don't make it about Reva coming and saving the day, because this is not the Reva show. You can give her a show later or something. It is not the Reva show. We do not need that. We've gotten plenty of screen time for her. Moses Ingram's a good actor. She's done well. But it's not the Reva show. We do not need Reva to save the day. I want Obi-Wan. I want Darth Vader. I've put a lot of thinking into this, and here's my episode 6 predictions. I personally think it's starting. This Star Cruiser is on the Rebels' tail, and they're going to catch him. And I think Obi-Wan's going on to the Star Cruiser. I think he has to. I think it's the only way. I think we're going to get one last Vader and Obi-Wan meeting, because in the Last Hope, Vader says, "Last time we met, I was the learner. You were the master." Which means Obi-Wan has to best Vader if it's going to be canon. Obi-Wan has to best Vader. And I think that's going to lead to us kind of seeing a whole crazy fight, where I think Qui-Gon's finally going to get to Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan's going to be like, whoa, Qui-Gon's there. And he's just going to go like absolute God mode and just crazy Obi-Wan and go at Vader. And I think it's going to be epic. I think as they're fighting, I think Obi-Wan is going to pretty much try to be like, "I know there's still good in you, Anakin." Like, just kind of like Padme says. I think he's going to try to, because Vader also references Obi-Wan thinking he can turn Vader good again. So I personally think he's going to try to turn Vader good. He's going to go absolutely crazy. He's going to best Vader somehow. Obviously, he will not kill him, but I think he's going to beat him in a saber battle fueled by Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon Force Ghost finally coming through. Then Obi-Wan, Leia, they will escape. They'll get away. Hop on, deliver Leia back to Alderaan, to Bail Organa, and then Obi-Wan's gonna go back to Tatooine, where he thinks he's just gonna go back, kind of settle back into his going through the motions kind of life, watching Luke. As he arrives, Reva will be on Tatooine. Where Obi-Wan has to kill her. And I think Obi-Wan knows he has to kill her, because Reva knows about the boys. Sorry, about the twins. Reva knows about the twins, which means there's a possibility Reva might need to die because Obi-Wan can't let Vader find out, which obviously Vader doesn't find out because in episode 6 you have a twin sister.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't let him find that. You can't let Vader find that out. So I think Reva either needs to die or be brainwashed, but I think her brain is too strong to be brainwashed.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she gets brainwashed potentially or dies. I think Leia potentially gets brainwashed. So she can't remember any of it because I'd just be confused if she was kind of, it seemed like she didn't know Obi-Wan in A New Hope too much. So I don't know, but it's going to be an epic episode. I think it's going to be an all-timer. I think Obi-Wan's, it's going to be a legacy episode for Obi-Wan. It's just going to be him going absolutely crazy. Any final thoughts on this last upcoming episode, right?
I feel like Qui-Gon will come, or a voice will come when Obi-Wan accepts that Anakin's gone. I think that's when it's going to happen, because I think that's the struggle. There's an internal struggle. You need to find balance. The whole theme of Jedi concept, right, is balance and having your emotions balanced. And so I feel like once he finds that balance, whether that be killing Reva or protecting the twins or recognizing purpose, I think that's what it is. So yeah, I agree. I think you'll have some really neat lightsaber battles. I'm just curious of the theming of it all. So I'm excited. I'm definitely excited. I really want Hondo. I'll be honest. I know it's not going to happen.
Oh man, that would be amazing.
I know it's not going to happen,
action.
but what I want to happen, it's not going to. I will shit my pants. Sorry. I will poop my pants if it does. Is that Hondo comes, rescues Obi-Wan, and then it's like, my boy, welcome back. And that's it. That's how the episode ends.
My gosh. That would be insane.
It's not going to happen.
I would love some live action Hondo. I just don't know if it's time, but that would be amazing.
Yeah. Well, he is in Smuggler's Run at Galaxy's Edge, so he is live actions. We know he'll come back at some point.
We'll see him at some point. We for sure will.
Yes.
And we got some good shows coming, so we will definitely see him in live action. So far, we've talked some good Star Wars. We've gotten some episode recaps. We've had some predictions. We've had some Easter eggs, ranking episodes, whatever it may be. So thank you for listening to that. We're going to jump to our final segment, which is going to be the Jedi Hierarchy. R2D2, cue the noise.
Beep, boop, 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 beep. My
Thank you, Grant 2. Thank you. So in this segment, we are going to rank our top 5 Jedi overall. It's overall. It's not just best fighter or best looking Jedi or best there we go, there it is. Okay, so we are going to rank our top 5 Jedis overall. Brent, give me your number 5 top Jedi.
So I have a question with this because my number 1 has an asterisk. So I actually have 6 because my number 1 has an okay. So my 5 is Gungi. Gungi. He is the Wookiee Padawan from the Clone Wars Gathering arc. So when they go and they get the Kyber crystals, and it's like a 6-episode arc, and just the pirates, the General Grievous is in it. They build their lightsabers. We get to really see an iconic moment. But that's not the reason. We all thought that he was dead, but he has a single scene in this episode 2, season 2 of Bad Batch. So my boy's not dead. He survived Order 66. We're going to get more Wookiee Jedi in Gungi. So he's my 5th or my 6th in a way.
Yeah, I hope he's your 6th. So that is a bold take, my friend.
Yeah, he's going to be incredible. I'm just calling it out now. He's going to be incredible.
I'll give you my my honorable mention, as Brant kind of just did. My honorable mention is Mace Windu. I say Mace Windu because we simply haven't seen enough Mace Windu. We obviously know Mace is probably like the strongest Jedi as far as fighting goes because he kind of just went at Palpatine and took him down. Not something that anyone can really do. We saw Palpatine absolutely destroy Maul and his brother in Clone Wars. We saw Palpatine and Yoda pretty much be pretty evenly matched when they fought. And Mace Windu kind of just took him down. It was pretty badass, but we haven't seen enough about Mace Windu. I hope we get more later on, maybe like a backstory about him. But he is my honorable mention. Let's hear your number 5, Brant.
So my number 5 would have to be Rey, even though technically she's not a Jedi, but technically she is. It's just a weird thing, but I think she is just because we didn't know too much about her. She learned the Force really, really quick. She understood it. She's able to kind of find Luke Skywalker right away using kind of this Force map with the Millennium Falcon and going through, and then holding kind of the weight of multitudes of legacies upon her, working with Ben, working with all the Jedi of the past. She's my number 5, just because I think she's got a lot there. I hope we see her more in the future. Her lightsaber, her scavenger lightsaber, the one we see at the very end, is awesome. The yellow, just plasma, right? I think there's just a lot of really neat things with Rey. We can talk more about that trilogy.
Sure. Let's move on to Let's move on to your number 4, Brant. Let's hear your number 4.
My number 4 would have to be Kanan Jarrus, or Caleb Doom. That's just iconic. I love him turning into a wolf through the Force and understanding what that is, and recognizing the connection with the spirituality, and him technically not being a Jedi Knight until he's dubbed one by the Grand Inquisitor, his ultimate villain. Sorry for spoilers, but coming back, and he was the Jedi, the Temple. He's my number 4, and he's just a great, iconic Jedi that I hope we learn more about.
Absolutely. And your number 3?
My number 3 would have to be Obi-Wan Kenobi. Just all-around great Jedi, wise Jedi. We have a great arc of who he is and where he comes from, and we're excited to see how he turns out here.
Sweet, man. And let's hear your number 2.
So my number 2 is Ezra Bridger. I think he is going to have some great things coming on. Another one where he's technically not a Jedi right now, but he kind of is
a light side Force wielder.
So yes. Oh well, then that changes my hierarchy though. But with that kind of theme, same thing. I really loved his ingenuity. He felt very Anakin-y, but then he went the light side instead of turning to the dark. So we see the whole Maul mentality. And he went with Ahsoka, or that side. He chose the way Anakin didn't choose. So I thought that was really neat, and I'm excited to hopefully maybe get him back with some Grand Admiral Thrawn in the future. But yeah. So my top is a little.
Who's your number 1?
My honorable mention, because I didn't consider her a Jedi, who would be my number 1, would be my ultimate top, would be Ahsoka Tano. She'd be my number 1. Ultimate time, but she got removed from the Jedi Order, so I didn't count her. But she's my number 1, badass, whatever it is. I think she's awesome and super excited. But my number 1 Jedi would be Luke Skywalker.
Luke Skywalker.
I think that he has this unspoken power that we're not sure about. Him in The Last Jedi was absolutely incredible. Seeing this kind of culmination of the idea of the Jedi Order's done, it's over with. Him seeing his understanding his pride, and getting that scene in Mandalorian, him coming in on the X-wing. Oh, Luke Skywalker is the product of the chosen one and continuation of the Jedi. And just a kind of culmination of what the Jedi can be in the future. So he's my number 1. But if Ahsoka would be my number 1, if we consider her a Jedi.
Okay. So real quick, recap the list, 5 through 1.
Yes. So 5 through 1 would be Kanan Jarrus, Rey, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ezra, Luke, and then Ahsoka would be my number 1 if we counted her as a Jedi.
Okay, so I am going to go. I based my list off if they were a Jedi at some point. It's obviously it would skew your list a little bit, but here's mine. At number 5, I'm going Luke Skywalker. top 5 Jedis, number 5, Luke Skywalker. I go Luke Skywalker number 5 because, I'm personally a little more of a prequel guy, and you are more of an original trilogy guy. I know
Mhm.
that the May the Boys Be With You would not be a good show if we both didn't if we agreed on everything. We disagree. You're original trilogy guy. I'm more of a prequels animated series guy, which you love the animated series just as much, if not more than me. So number 5, Luke Skywalker, and that is because Luke Skywalker is obviously a super strong Jedi. He absolutely goes and bashes on Vader in Return of the Jedi. He's amazing. He picks it up so fast. He's he's a savior of the universe. He becomes the new chosen one. Spoiler: please do not listen to this section if you are have not finished Rebels yet. So number 5, Luke Skywalker. For me, number 4 is my favorite Jedi, probably Ahsoka Tano. Ahsoka Tano is just amazing. She just has it. At first, when they first introduced her early on in Star Wars, Clone Wars, a little annoyed by her. She quickly grew into a Jedi we all loved, and then Rebels, man, Ahsoka Tano is just amazing. We get her in Mandalorian, and then Book of Boba. Now we're getting a show about her. So me putting Ahsoka in my top 5 is actually kind of a projection towards also the future, not just the great stuff she has done, but the great stuff she will do. Ahsoka Tano is an absolute legend. Number 3 for me would be Anakin Skywalker, the Jedi that is now turned into Vader, formerly known as Anakin Skywalker. He had a pretty much a whole trilogy and another trilogy all based about him. Anakin Skywalker is probably the most powerful Jedi we have ever seen. He was obviously very conflicted, but he was an amazing war general in the Clone Wars, cared about his friends, cared about his family, cared about Ahsoka Tano, everyone he loved, until he was influenced by Palpatine. Anakin Skywalker is my number 3 Jedi. For number 2, I have the great Yoda. Yoda is just, the guy, you don't see him in action much, but when you do, oh man, he is incredible. The way he uses the Force to fight is just absolutely ridiculous because he's not a super, mobile being at that point. But that we know Yoda, obviously he's very old, but Yoda is an amazing Jedi. He could see the future pretty much. He is, he knows the Force. It is crazy. Love Yoda. My number 1 overall Jedi is who else but the legend that we are seeing unfold right now, Obi-Wan Kenobi. He is my number 1 Jedi because if you look back at track records of saber battles, I think Obi-Wan Kenobi would have the best saber battle record out of all Force users. He takes down Darth Maul early on in the prequels. He goes and he fights Anakin, Revenge of the Sith, takes down Anakin. He destroys General Grievous. I think there's a big battle coming up here. He gets Darth Maul again. Obi-Wan Kenobi's track record as a saber fighter is just absolutely incredible. He is so disciplined in his practice. He is patient. He is caring. He is the epitome of what a Jedi is. And that's why Obi-Wan Kenobi is my number 1 Jedi. Any thoughts, Brant? Overall Jedi thoughts. I left Kanan Jarrus out of the list, and I left Ezra out of the list.
I guess mine would be also any thoughts on mine as well. But mine, I'm gonna state why I didn't put Yoda. So I've started to get more into I've started reading some High Republic stuff and what that is. In Yoda, so I kind of made the Jedi of like the prequels. So the ones who were very prideful, they couldn't be with someone, they couldn't do all those things. And so hypocrite, right? So it's like, yes, Yoda, he got there when everything destroyed, like everything. He realized like his pride of making this Jedi Order and all these things. But that's why I didn't put Yoda. But I do love the character of Yoda. And I'm just trying to see like where Grogu goes. Because technically we could include Grogu on this, but I didn't. But I think your list is fair. I really enjoyed a lot of what those is. Anakin, the reason I didn't put Anakin is I made like a separate Sith list, and Vader's my number 1. So Darth Vader is like my number 1, and I included Anakin in that because we see Vader throughout all of it. Episode 1, 2, 3, you see the darkness in him, and so I almost think like he is his own thing. So yeah, I think your list makes sense. I think I just thought of enjoyability for me watching, and less of like statistics.
Yeah, and just can we get a Grogu cameo in episode 6 somehow?
Oh,
Just
yes.
him being smuggled through a tunnel. I'm sure they'll save that for a Tale of Jedi, but I would love a little
Or
Grogu,
a post-credit
Order
scene
66.
of Vinland of Voss just like taking him, Quinlan Voss just like saving him, like a post-credit scene of him like pushing a little cradle.
Give me that, please. That would be just. I'm assuming they'll introduce a TV show by that, but that would be amazing. I would love it. Give me all of that. Just imagine Grogu, like my father before me, because Yoda, whatever. He had a kid. We all know it. We all know that's where Grogu came from. Come on. I'm just kidding, but that would be amazing. So, well, folks, that will do it for the first episode of May the Boys Be With You, a Star Wars story. Please follow us on TikTok. Subscribe to our YouTube page by clicking the button below. You know what to do. We will be doing a final breakdown that's relaxing later this week. It may be a live stream of the final episode here of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Follow us because there is no try, as the great Yoda says. Just simply, all you need to do is click the subscribe button. Please follow us and subscribe. Follow us on TikTok. Subscribe to us on YouTube. May the Force be with you all. But most importantly, may the boys be with you all. Good night, Brant.